Blessed to travel around the world from a very young age. I was raised a Catholic child, and I ended up in a boarding school, a Jewish boarding school, so I was exposed to Judaism. But since these people are not in
Bon Dieu blanc ou monté au fait crime. Mais bon Dieu pas nous. A demandé nous faire ça qui bon. Bon Dieu pas nous qui bon pour nous. Parce que nous l'ordre pour nous venger tout mal blanc ou fait nous. Il promet c'est lui qui va diriger pour nous. C'est lui qui va vendre nous force dans j'arrête nous. Il exige faut que nous déchuter tout symbole à portrait bon Dieu blanc yo qui toujours a fait nous crier. Qui remet boire lumière la vie qui claire dans genou. Demandez nous tout pour nous coûter voix liberté capé parler dans terre nous chaque. Aïe bobo.
A theology of liberation is a set of principles, a set of canons that enable us again to think and act freely, morally, justly, and in consideration for others. Our task as Vodouvi, there is no reason why we cannot take these things and we do not use these things to further ourselves, to make ourselves strong, to love each other, to embrace the principles of Pan-Africanism.
With Haitian Vodou as a quintessential expression of successful Pan-Africanism in action, how is it that it was never made a central feature of the modern Pan-Africanist movements? What did the movement miss about the potential of Vodou that now makes it the subject of scientific, cultural, and political focus?
wherever I am in any form of environment, in any contact with any of the elements, I will recognize myself when I live by Vodou principles. In Vodou, we are one with the cosmos, and we, each and all, have the power to communicate with the other. We receive instructions from each other, obey and respect each other, every life form.
All right, peace and black power family. Welcome to another episode of the Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge shows knowledge more alive. Here, wow, a long-awaited proof that what you ask God for, she will give unto you.
Very true.
So here with our historical representative, one who has given us 5 decades of her life or more to reshaping and reorienting our psyche in regards to our yesteryears, to our ancestral lineage, to those forces of nature that we owe a debt to, our spirit and space of reclamation as we continue to trek on this journey toward African liberation. Phenomenal mind, and who I deem our mother of revolution. It becomes my honor and privilege at this time to introduce and present to others Professor of Distinction, a Professor of Revolution and Reclamation, a Professor of Our Story and Our Struggle, and our redeeming scholastic mind in regards to Ayitian connection and our roots of revolution. Professor Bayyinah Bello, welcome to the platform. It's my honor to receive you, Queen Mother.
Thank you very, very much, brother. I love the name. Knowledge born Allah. This is a very powerful name, and it demands a great deal to live up to it. And I do send you all the energy that I can transmit. As a mother, a grandmother, a great grandmother, I send you that which you need to live up and be knowledge born. Allah.
Thank you, Queen Mother. As I was saying before we went live, I was listening to you for 25 years or more. I say 25. I think that's a good round round number, but I'm sure it was longer than that. The inclination towards hearing the voice of Mother to speak to our plight. I think oftentimes we got captivated and swept up in those currents of those charismatic men who were well-meaning, but easily swayed in one direction or the other based upon what was offered to them. So to hear Mother will find every reason in the universe to show love and mercy to even those that may have wished us harm. But when Mother cries out, the outcry of Mother, the wailing of Mother towards our correction, towards our upliftment, to call us out of those graves that we're in allegiance to the parasitical thing that has continued to suck the life force economically, emotionally, spiritually, and physically from our people. And we become so conditioned that we're contingent upon it. Only Mother could cause us to rise from the dead and fight. So listening to you and learning from you at your feet spiritually over these years has been a remarkable journey for me. So I just wanted to welcome you and give you your honors due in this space.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
So before we went live, you were going to tell me about uh, the man in the picture. I wanted to see if we could start there.
Uh-huh. This man, on the day this picture is taken, he turned 125 years old. And I did not know him when I was growing up. I met him, he was 114, lost touch with him, thought he was no more, and then met him again. He was 119. And we had long conversations. Then I discovered this is the great cousin of my great grandfather. And so he came to live with me for the 5 following years, and he joined the ancestors realm at 126. And he joined it peacefully, knowingly. He announced it to us 2 days ahead of time. Said, by Saturday, I will be underground. Let me go have a last cola with our neighbor. He came all around the house, greeted everybody, give them a handshake before he goes for his nap. And he says, this is the last handshake, you're not gonna see me again. He went for his nap and didn't wake up. And in our research about centenarians, people who live 100 years and more, we find out most of them usually know when they're going, and they usually announce it very plainly, very matter of fact. So that's what I wanted to open up for us, so we can see that even in the way we conceive our own life, our own longevity is not our own way.
I love that, Mother. What were some of those, once you had the discovery, with your family, what were some of the stories that you could share in regards to that reconnection, living 100 years and life and seeing all of those changes?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, the man was 125. The country was about to turn 200 years old. And so he could talk about things that he lived 100 and something. He knew more than half the history. He personally knew more than half the history of the country. So he could talk about the occupation, the US occupation of Haiti, and how wicked they were. And when you take what he says and you go to documents and you see how the documents are tricked, they don't tell you 1/10 of the story. With him, I learned, for example, that the cousin of my great grandfather, who became emperor of Haiti, the second emperor of Haiti, he, when he was just a corporal, he met the woman that he wanted to marry in Port-au-Prince. And so he said, all right, I'm going to take you to your family so I could ask them for your hand in marriage. And so as a gentleman, a real gentleman, he put the lady on his mule and walked behind the mule from Port-au-Prince to Petit Guave. That's a 2-hour ride by car now. I don't know on foot. I've never done it. It's, I would say, at least a 12-hour foot walk. But so he showed us how a gentleman, and he was very proud of that this man did not ride the mule with the lady. He couldn't do that. He put the lady on the mule and walked with them. So, very interesting elements of history are often given to me by the various centenarians that we met, who are very lucid. Their mind is very clear. They know what they're talking about. And so when I have their information, my elders' information has more value to me than what anybody writes in their books.
Agreed. I'm just in awe because you spent so much of your life with the research, and then you get the living witnesses as an accompanying embodiment of the body of work. So to see how treacherous the ones with the pen have done a job in regards to recording versus what the people actually experience, the accounts, and reconciling them, what did that do for you on your mission?
Very true. One of the very impressive moments in the research on centenarians, we met a woman, and I thought when I saw her, that must be maybe a 70. Today I'm 75. And at the time, I thought she might have been 70. I was maybe in my 50s somewhere. And so she said, ask her for the house of the woman I was looking for. And she said, well, I'll show you the way. So the woman took, ahead, and she's showing the way, and we're having a hard time following her. She's quick. She's sturdy. The ground was kind of muddy because there was just a bad weather. There was hurricane and whatnot recently. So we were having a hard time following her. Well, she took us to the place, and when she got there, and she says, okay, the guests are here. Come on, everybody. Bring coffee, bring water. And finally, I realized that's the 120 plus woman I'm coming to visit. Then she lined up her children to present them. And she says, I had 14 children, 5 of them are still alive. This is the youngest one, and he is 92. Then this is the next one. He's 90. And this one has 102, and that one is 105. And I almost fainted. The mom turned out to be 132. The woman 120 plus I was coming to see was 132 years old. So what does that mean for people? When in living your own life on your own land, eating your own food, drinking the water that comes under your feet, we produce that quality of life longevity. And any even so-called doctors, today you will hear them all complaining, oh, they have more heart problem than before, more this or that disease. But they don't equate the fact that 30 years ago, Haitians ate 100% of products grown in Haiti. Today, 80+% of what we put in our mouth comes from someplace else. And so our health has dipped where we used to have 0 of such and such illness. Now we have high numbers. And heart disease is rampant has become rampant in the past 10 years. But then when you look at what our children are eating, all the food that's coming from everywhere, from people that are making things out of plastics, where we used to eat natural, biological foods. It's very, very bad for our health. Especially the water. Your water should come from under your feet, not from across the world. So, if our health is not good, if our health today is worse than what it was during slavery time, what kind of revolutionary can we produce? Because life is a whole. Some people say what you eat is what you are. Others say what you think is what you are. But can you be who you are if you're not thinking your own thoughts? Okay. How much of a person is a Black person, whose references are all non-Black? You write a book, it's supposed to be a big time intellectual, and you quote Napoleon, you quote Washington, you quote everybody and their mama, and you know nothing about your own revolutionaries. If you're into science, you're naming a whole bunch of people whose name you can't even say properly. But you don't know a fine medicine guy like Macondal. You don't know that Toussaint Louverture was a medicine man. You don't know that Jean-Jacques Dessalines was a trained medicine person. You don't know that Empress Felicité of Haiti was a healer. But you're quoting everybody and their mama. What kind of medicine can you offer your people? We have to be. That's the only duty we have in this cosmos, to be. Be yourself. The sun doesn't have to do anything but be a sun. And it doesn't have to do anything but shine and burn. That's what sun do. Water don't have to do nothing but wet things. Fire don't have to do nothing but burn. What is your being? And what is your function in the cosmic oneness that we live? We admire Dessalines, but we don't try to figure out, what did he eat? What time did he wake up in the morning? What was his relation to the sun, to the moon, to the earth? Why did he always go to a river and bathe with all his clothing after a battle? When you talk about things like that, people say, oh, that's not history. That's little details. Ha ha, really? We must be. And we cannot be a revolutionary if we're not ourselves. You cannot be a model of Mao Zedong. You cannot be a model of Ho Chi Minh. You cannot be a Washington or a Napoleon. You can only be the finest that you are. And you can only become that when you learn what those who look like you have done in the past. You know, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, when he lived in Saint-Marc, in the town of Saint-Marc in Haiti, when he was the general-in-chief of that department, Dessalines had built on his wall, on one wall, he had painted all the Euro-Christian generals from Alexander the Greek to Napoleon. He lined them all up. And on the opposite wall, he made a picture of himself life-size, but made of all the people, like the whole body was people. And when people ask him, why do you have your enemy in a cross and then you on this wall? He says, well, so that I practice. So when I give Napoleon a punch, it reverberates all the way to the first colonizer. So he wasn't fighting against the one that's in front of him. As a true African who knew himself, he knew that the one he sees is only the tip of the iceberg. But that one is fighting for all the ones who've had the same mentality as himself. And so he knew in order for him to be efficient, the punch had to go back all the way to the first one. How many of our people think that way? How many people claim to be revolutionaries and understand, I can't say, oh, I'm a revolutionary on IT, and in IT, I'm doing an IT. No. Guadeloupe has the same problem. Martinique has the same problem. Jamaica has the same problem. Cuba has the same problem. I can't look at IT and think I'm going to solve the problem. I must look at it globally. And I must look further. Like Dessalines used to say, he said that he wanted to build 1,000 sheep boats. So he could go back after creating IT. He wanted to build boats, 1,000 of them at least. So he could go back to Africa and stop slavery at the source. He didn't say, oh, no, we're independent, now we're good. We don't have to bother about the others. The man was thinking, this is nothing if we can't make it for all of us. That's why a law in our first constitution, the imperial constitution, the law says, if you are Haitian, you're not mulatto. Most words like mulatto, light skin, or whatever, Chabin, Marabu, all these other words that these people created to divide us. He says, no, all of us are only one thing. Even if your eyes are blue, your hair is blonde, if you're Haitian, you're a black person, period. Okay? And anyone also in one of his speech, he says, anyone running from slavery of any creed or determination, if you set foot in Haiti, you become free. If you're black, you become free and a citizen. But if you're of any other denomination, cult, a race, you become free. Because Haiti is the land of freedom. And he saw that as the refuge, the oasis from which to bring freedom through the world.
I wanted to ask about his wife, Marie.
I'm sorry?
I said I wanted to ask you about Jean-Jacques Dessalines' wife, Marie.
Yes. All right. Well, as you understand, Dessalines was a general, and once he declared independence on January 1st, 1804, on October 8th, soon it will be October 8th, 1804, Haiti became an empire. And Dessalines, General Jean-Jacques Dessalines became Jacques, Emperor first of Haiti, Empire of Freedom. That's in his letterhead. Haiti, Empire of Freedom. So he already has conceived this as not just the island. And his wife became Empress Félicité of Haiti, Empire of Freedom. Now, his wife, when they married in 1800, she was 10 years older than him. And they had, from what we can see, a very good relationship. She taught him how to read and write French. She was clear on what her mission was. Her mission is health, justice, education. Those are the three elements. She says anything else, if somebody comes to her talking about military, she says, no, there's only one military person in our family, is Jean-Jacques. But if you come to talk to her about justice, you come to talk about education, you talk about health, that's her. And she was so clear. When they established the capital city, the new capital city, they didn't take one of the cities of the colony, but they took a big empty land and created the capital city, the new capital city of independent Haiti. And so when they created that city, in one street, there was Dessalines' house. They built Dessalines' house. And 2 streets down the way, they built the Empress's house. And when people were asking her, why would you have 2 houses? You love your husband, you're living with him. She says, no. He has created a liberty. Liberty must be defended. So his house must be an arsenal. My mission is health, justice, education. I need books, leaves, roots, no weapons in my place. So the woman was very, very clear as to what her role was and what her environment should be like. But she did not mind, and she was clear that her husband was a totally different story. He had to live in his arsenal. And she created both houses, took care of both, made sure everything was running correctly in both houses, but each had their own space. And that showed to me how independent this woman was. After the assassination of the emperor on October 17, the empress survived the emperor by 52 years. So she lived to be 110 years. And that's precisely why our foundation, Fondation Félicité, we started to do research on centenarians. We say, what? A woman who spent the first 20 plus years of her life in slavery, being mistreated, going through all kinds of things. And then this woman becomes free. And this woman survives the revolution. Part of independence, becomes the empress of our independent Haiti. And she's going to survive by 52 years, live to be 110, where every book, every document I had read up until now says slavery in the colony of Saint-Domingue, no one could survive more than 20 years. So wait a minute. No one can survive more than 20 years. Everybody died within 10 to 20 years in the colony, you were dead. And I'm looking at this woman, says, her life said that's not true. So then I start looking at everybody else. Toussaint died at about 60. Okay, Dessalines, he was killed. He was assassinated at 48. But that's assassination. But Toussaint's godfather, Pierre-Simon Baptiste, was 116 when they arrested Toussaint. I don't know when he died. But on the day they arrested Toussaint, he walked from Henry to Gonaïves on foot, encouraging Toussaint not to allow the French to drag him on the floor. Stand up, Stand up in our family, we die standing up. That's what the 116-year-old man was saying to Toussaint Louverture. His adoptive mother was 105, Grande Pélagie. And then, start meeting so many other people that are, centenarians in our colonial slavery history. I said, well, I gotta know, is any of this still in existence today? So that's when I started the research among Haitians, living Haitians. And I was stunned. Not only does Haiti have a very high proportion of centenarians, but then as I looked at other countries nearby, for example, at one point we were looking at Cuba. Cuba had something like 24 centenarians in Cuba. 16 of them were Haitians who moved to live in Cuba. We look at Canada, Quebec, the three known centenarians in Canada were Haitian women. We looked at California, Mrs. Bouchot, who was the oldest person in California at the time, was 109, Haitian woman. I said, wait a minute. So we looked all around. We see that Haiti, during all this period where we're eating what we produce a high percentage of centenarians. And when we say centenarians, they don't have no wheelchairs. They don't have no nurses. They don't have nobody who's doing anything for them. I had met this woman, Elina Doriska d'Haïti. She was 119 when I met her. She died at 128. She was taking care of 6 great-grandchildren, combing hair every morning, fighting to take them to school, fighting to find food to feed the children, struggling every day of her life at 120 plus. One time, one of her grandsons got arrested and she went to the police to debate to have the child released. I mean, this is what the average 100 and whatever age people in Haiti, that's what they're doing. Fighting.
So I remember hearing you speak about Aunt Toya, who trained the general.
Yes.
And the homie situation. I know recently there was a film that came out called The Woman King.
Mm-hmm.
And they made some indictments about the homie people. So the split, I think it was kind of divisive in that regard, because we don't have Toussaint, we don't have Jean-Jacques Dessalines, we don't have the whole situation that led to the Louisiana Purchase surrounding, the homie descendancy. So from the Caribbean to the Americas, we don't have that connection without it. So if you could give us some insight on Queen Mother Toya and the Dahomey people.
Mm-hmm. I wrote a book called Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution.
I have the book.
Okay. So the Sheroes are the women. I do not like the term heroine. It opens up to too many things. So I prefer to use Sheroes to speak of the female who accomplished in our various nations. So Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution, on the cover is Tante Toya. And from way back then, I nicknamed her the hyphen. Because in Haiti, we often say, oh yeah, Africa is our mother, Africa this, Africa that. We never have anything specific. We never point to one person, one event, and say, this is where Africa, Haiti as one. They're connected here. So for me, when I became aware of Tontoya's existence and her accomplishments, I said, hey, this is the hyphen that was missing. Now I can talk of a woman who, here's who she was in Africa, here's what she did, here's what she accomplished, here are the conditions under which she was kidnapped, chained, taken in a net like a fish, brought on a boat, then brought over here in the colony, in the wicked colony of Saint-Domingue, put on a block and sold like a piece of meat. So she went from a woman in Dahomey that men did not even have the right to raise their eyes on her. Whenever female warriors were coming through, all men had to turn their back on the road and close their eyes. They don't have the right to look at them. Female warriors do not marry. They do not become involved with anyone. They don't have their whole energy is on protecting the nation up until a certain time. Other women can marry at 10, 15, 20, whatever. But if you join the army generally before you're 10 and you're trained to be nothing but a defender of the nation, until you reach a certain point, when you've accomplished a certain number of victories, you have trained a certain number of generations, then you can request the permission to create a home because you have done what you have to do for the nation. Now you can do something for yourself. So at that point, she was a moon away from choosing her husband when she was kidnapped and taken to Saint-Domingue. And there she is sold. And at first she decides she ran away wanting to mount an army in Saint-Domingue to fight against slavery. But she didn't find the right people to join the army. So ultimately she decided, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be alive anymore. So she started to pick the plants necessary to take herself off the planet. Remember, in the training in Dahomey and in most of Africa, military people must be medicinal people. You have to know about healing if you have a fighting career. So there again, she was comfortable to go look for what she needed to take herself off the planet. And as she was doing this job, she met another woman who ran away from someplace else. And her reason, the other woman, was that she didn't want her baby born in the heart of slavery. So she ran away to have the child someplace else. So the two women met. The military woman helped the pregnant woman to deliver her baby. So that means she interrupted what she was doing in as far as taking herself off the planet. And once the baby is born, a boy, the mother, feeling death coming towards her, she asked the other woman, she hands the baby over to the other woman and said, please raise my child. Make sure he knows freedom. So Tontoya have no choice. Now she cannot, because the mother dies, she buries the mom, and now Tontoya has a child to raise, and therefore cannot take herself off the planet. Ultimately, she decides that she must leave. She cannot stay in the woods, in the wilds with the baby. One day they would be caught, and that would not be what the mother wanted. So she went through everything she had to go through, meditations, questioning the spirit, questioning the oracles, etc., etc. And the answer came back over and over again, you must return to slavery. Unless the child learns what slavery, the horrors of slavery, he will not be able to destroy it. So she went back to the plantation with the baby. She was punished. She suffered a lot of things, but she was blessed not to have, because generally when you run away, they cut one of your foot So her foot was not cut off. So she continued to train the child. From the time he was 4, she started training the child about freedom, about fighting, about healing, about history of Africa, about great kings of Africa, etc., etc., etc. So that's the fine, fabulous teacher, Tontoya, who trained a child in the heart of full-fledged, atrocious, ferocious Euro-Christian slavery, and trained that child to become a freedom fighter. And that's the greatest teacher as far as I'm concerned. There's no two, I don't know of a second teacher as good as this woman. So that's who Tontoya is to me. She went through the whole revolution. She saw independence. She was present at independence. She saw her protege become general in chief of the army. Then she saw him become emperor of Haiti, Empire of Freedom. And she died on June 11, 1805. And Dessalines himself bathed the body. Here again, he had not received proper medical training. He wouldn't be qualified to do that. So he said, this woman gave me my first bath when I came into the world. If she is going, I must give her her last bath. So about justice, about fairness, about reciprocity.
I know there was a similar story about Nat Turner, whose his day is today, that his mother didn't, she was about to take his life and her life. She didn't want him to grow up in the hells of slavery. And it was told that one of the priest or one of the elders saw a mark on him. And that mark, the birthmark that he carried, was significant enough for him to be noted as a redeeming child. And his life was spared. And he grew up to lead a rebellion. So just thinking of those spaces in regards to a step closer towards joining the ancestral realm, and one piece of that trajectory, something happens that alters the course and changes everything. So
Very true. And I must say thank you. You mentioned it. I almost forgot it. We must stop a minute and greet the spirit of Nat Turner, who today is the day he came onto our planet. Today's is Nat Turner's birthday. So, and you also make a very important connection. During his trial in August 1831, at some point they asked Nat Turner, "Who is your leader?" Nat Turner replied, "Jean-Jacques Dessalines." So they stopped the procedure and go out and said, "We have to find this Dessalines and bring him in." So they went and did whatever they had to do, had some conversation and whatnot. And then ultimately somebody said, "No, Dessalines is a guy he's been dead. He was in Haiti, da 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 da." Well, so the trial reconvened, and they asked now with a very mocking attitude, "So who is your leader?" He says, "General Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Emperor of Haiti." And they said, "Well, the man has been dead." Says, "Yes, but his spirit guides me." So the connections are there, it's just that we don't have them yet on the conscious level. It just shows the work that we have to do. It's not about photocopying his story like the Euro Christians according to the template created by Euro Christians. No. We have to write our Ourstory according to who we are. And who we are is spirit dressed in a human flesh, blood, bone outfit. So when we transition to the other realm, to another form of life, it's not the end. And many, many times in our various segments of Ourstory, we do have elements like this, not Turner, but he's not the only one. When we had a freedom fighter called Macandal, Francois Macandal, who was also a great healer, fabulous man who knew plants like wow. He knew exactly every plant he looked at, what he could do with it. And Macandal, they killed him 3 times. And each time he came right back. And that's a major problem. And if they have a hard time, they'll always have a hard time writing his biography. So and a lot of us will go into nonsense of arguing, oh no, he wasn't dead. He didn't die this date. He died on that date. He didn't die. I really don't care. Okay. What is certain? They hung him, and when they thought he was dead, he jumped right out the rope. They did, what was it? They shoot him the second time, I don't remember. The third time was set him on fire. And that time he said, I will return as a mosquito and bring disease to eliminate you. And our big weapon in 1802 was yellow fever, which hit the French troops en masse and facilitated our victory. So to many of us, we know that Macandal's army was at work bringing yellow fever.
I love that. With every fiber of our being, the reminders of age, indiscriminate to young or old, one of the greatest examples that we can point to is our ancestral lineage. They fought. They fought until the physical end and continue to fight from the ancestral realm. This decline in regards to the fight, based off of your research, is there a place or a particular time in history that we can point to that shows this decline or this complete moving away from resistance in any form that kind of charts us to where we're witnessing this now?
Personally, I don't feel there's any time where we were totally non-resistant. I don't think that exists. Resistance is like the wave of the sea. Sometimes you see the sea, you have a feeling that there's no wind, no nothing. The sea is just a flat sheet, but it's not true. But that's the impression you have. And then other time it's like this, you could see the wave moving. Other time it's huge forces. So When we're talking about 1802, 1803 in Haiti, we're talking about movement where lots of the waves are important. We are numerous in the fight, contributing to the fight. But then the other, it will go back again to a peaceful appearance. Okay. So, and I think also when we look at one spot, geographical space, one little geographical, if we're looking at IT, there is no way IT, I say, has gone through 312 years of fighting. From 1492 to 1803, the fight went on. Sometimes it was big waves, sometimes it was tsunamis, other times it was as if nothing was happening, but not true. Number one, and as far as physical fighting. Number two, marooning is the most important part of fighting. When you are there saying, yes, boss, oh, massa this, massa that, and then you're taking information in, bringing to the other one, or taking the poison food in, hiding the person who's fighting, stealing food to give to the warriors. You're doing all kinds of things. But you're there, yeah, massa boss. Oh, yes, yeah, massa. So everybody's looking at me as a Uncle Tom. But they don't know in my Uncle Tom attitude what I'm doing undercover at night behind doors. You have no clue what to. That's why we should avoid judging each other. We don't know. Some of us are submarines. They never appear on top. You never see what they're doing. We have to leave them alone. In fact, Dessalines said something. He said everybody has a role in the revolution, including the cowards. And people were shocked. Whoa, cowards? No, we don't want no cowards in the revolution. What you gonna do? He says, well, who's gonna tell you how the brave died if it's not the coward hiding under the bed? See, and it's important for us to know how the brave died. But if we don't have somebody who is hiding, we're not going to know it. Okay, so everybody have a role to play. Just like the wind, the breeze, the hurricane, the earthquake, whatever, all of this play their roles in life. I have nothing against hurricanes. I have nothing against earthquakes, even though in the last major earthquake in Haiti in 2010, I got 5 broken ribs and my left clavicle in 3 pieces. But I have nothing against hurricanes, earthquakes. I think those are various expressions of life, and they have their reason. And what we need to do is understand better the various life forms and their language, their communication. When I look at Kemet, huge flooding every year, but I don't find anywhere they're saying 20,000 dead, 50,000 dead, 100,000 dead. Because they studied their environment. They were real scientists. They knew when the flood was coming, and they had prepared the space where everybody would go during the flood. Let the flood do its work of nourishing the land. And then when the waters are low enough, we come down and we drop the seeds. So the flood and us are in harmony. We work together to produce more food. But today we have some foreign Euro-Christian concept. We complain about the rain. We complain about too hot. We complain about the wind. We complain about everything. Who are we? No, there is no complaining necessary. It's a lack of knowledge It's our stupidity and our arrogance. We're so proud of diplomas. I have a diploma from this, from that, and therefore I know. No, you don't know nothing. You're not handling the major part of life. So we have to look at this differently. The bird speaks to us. If we go back again to 2010, so many people reported that their dogs or their cats or chicken or whatever animal they had in the yard started coming into the house, barking or doing something and saying, no, 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 no. They start coming into the house and like they want to pull you out the house. They come into the house, they want to, and ultimately they understood that it was because the animal wanted you out of the house. And then after a while, when the earthquake hit, everyone understood why. The animals knew it's coming and they want you out of the danger. Even after huge tsunamis, they don't find too many dead animals because the animals know they have a perfect communication and they get out of the way. Only you find a whole bunch of dead, smart, intelligent people.
Queen Mother, I thank you for the time. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I want to take the last few moments with you talking about the fundraising, the gala, and also the course that you're offering online.
Well, the fundraising is at Fondation Félicité. Fundraising is continuous because we constantly have to do research. We constantly have to help centenarians that are in need of help. And today, with all the havoc that's being created in Haiti by external foreign Euro-Christian forces of all sorts, there is greater and greater need to help. For example, this very week, Fondation Félicité we were obliged to open our doors to people who were chased out of their houses by armed people. And so we had to help. So all the time, things are happening that are requesting. So fundraising is a continuous. We every month we're scratching our head trying to figure out how we're going to take care of what we have to take care of. So we are grateful for every contribution in every way. But I know when you said about the gala, it was about the fundraising that we're doing for Dessalines 265th Earth Strong year.
Yeah.
So that too is continuing because we've not finished celebrating him this year. We do have different things that will take place. We have received gifts that we must give to those into a raffle or auctions. So we have different things that will be going on through. It looks like now probably will carry on for the rest of the year. Even though, as of today, we're also supposed to start the fundraising for the soup sharing of January 1st every year. January 1st, we usually spend from October to December raising funds so that on January 1st, we can have soup across the nation available to everyone. Because Empress Felicite said, if your stomach is growling because you don't have food, you cannot appreciate freedom. And that's one of the weapons they use a lot against us. Even though we are in a country where food in 3 months, you can have all kinds of crops. But they do everything for you not to be able to do that. And they impose on these puppet governments that you have to get food from rice from this country and this from that country and that from this country, all kind of nonsense. So they create famine in our various countries. But on January 1st, Fondation Félicité does everything she can. Some years we've shared the soup, independent soup, with more than 20,000 people. So the fundraising for that is ongoing. It started with October 1st. We usually start the fundraising for the soup. So thank you for mentioning the fundraising, and we hope you will go to our website. I should have that information ready for you. Go to our website. We have there you'll find the PayPal, the Cash App, the Zelle, the various ways that you can contribute. And believe me, the need is tremendous, in particular these days. You probably will hear or have heard of the big battle between the people of Haiti and the government and army of the Dominican Republic on the river border, a river that both country that is between the two countries. And the Dominicans are simply against that we use any water from that river to take care of our land, to farm, to water our plants. And so the people decided that they were going to do it, and the people went on, and so they brought their army against the people, and it's going on now, and it's a very serious situation. Of course, we have a course. We have a Learn to Know Yourself seminars. That's important. That we believe at Fondation Félicité that until our people understand, our biggest weapon is to know self. If I know myself, why would I want to eat your food when my land can produce my own food? If I know myself, why would I want to copycat you? And when I'm not copying you, you're confused. You're not sure how I'm thinking. You don't know what I'm aspiring to. You can't manipulate me. And that's when when we have people who know themselves, then we can have government who do for the people, by the people, in the interest of the collective. The way to go. So we invite you on our website. You can you can register for the course, Learn to Know Yourself, and we will share some more.
Queen Mother, it's been an honor and a privilege. This is one of your homes, one of your communication stations, to be able to disseminate whatever you choose. And we're here to be of service to you. And I'm thankful to your team for connecting us. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share?
Well, we will simply say, go inside yourself. I don't care what kind of film you've been looking at. If you're fascinated by the Black Panther, Wakanda, the Woman King, know that you can do so much more than whatever you have seen on the screen. The true power, divine power, is in you. But to tap into it, you must strive. You must pay attention to yourself and strive to become each day more and more your own self.
Thank you, Queen Mother. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
How dare you put yourself in that position as a moral judge? I think you should keep quiet, because with that much blood on America's hands, you have no right to speak.
It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption. It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption.
I'm just a speaker for the poor, righteous teachers with pharaoh features. Like one of the kings from Egypt, the plan is to lock us, stripping our freedom. Mass incarceration, jails is crowded all across the nation. With black faces with 25 for crack cases. These new modern laws attract racists. Hands high, still a cop shooters, claiming we rock movers. Block looters, the reason they put the blocks to us. They fed us pork and false knowledge. I talk dollars, cause in this land of America, you hear the poor holler. A known scholar, do the math. What they teaching in class is transparent. I can see through the glass. It's on us to educate the babies, the black poets and athletes, before they end up dead on a back street. One. We ain't running no more, kid, it's time for war. Impeach the POTUS, his mind is apocalyptic. First they gave us dope, now it's pills that's not prescripted. Modern day genocide, they see us in a ride, costing $100 grand, shoot us just like the son of Sam.
Tribe of Levi, ship to Hispaniola, better known as Haiti, warriors of Judah. What does it mean when I say just a leave? Late night, the drums would scream. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see the ships retreat. I can see the ships retreat. I can see. Kupetele. Off with them hands. Off with them hands. It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption. It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption.
So what you know about them Zulus or the Asante? Salute to OC22 or Haiti in the swamps or where them alligators knew you. French threaded the locks who fear them not because of voodoo. Nazinga would have strangled you, moving like you need a piece of Amazons to murder you. No mercy, ask the Portuguese. Been the war, biggest one inside of you. Man the beast, death or victory. No surrender, we do not retreat. Word to Sunny Ali, the great Haile Selassie. Respect Muhammad Ahmed, that's who we call the Mahdi. If Turner caught you slipping, his machete will be dripping with the blood of opposition. He ain't spared children and women. Resistance is the mission, we pursuing with persistence. A coward gets beheaded on sight for lack of vision. This that men elect the second. Quechuayo, Bambada, that Harriet escape flow, that Nelson, that Shaka.
It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption. It's time for war. It's time for war. Redemption. Liberty
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them. That in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a